The story of Elfen Lied centers on Lucy, a new species classified as a Diclonius. These beings possess a kind of vectors, which are essentially invisible, telekinetic hands that grant them impressive powers unique to their race. Their most distinct physical feature is the horns on their skulls, setting them apart from all other humans. Lucy is initially held captive in a research laboratory where she is clearly being experimented on. She eventually breaks out of the facility, carving a path through the guards using a mysterious and lethal power, leaving a bloody massacre in her wake. In the final moments of her escape, a sniper's bullet near the sea causes her to lose consciousness. Her body is then carried by the tide until it washes up on a nearby beach. This is where Koro and Yuka find her. She is now amnesiac and has developed a split personality. The bloodthirsty Lucy has been replaced by the harmless and docile Niu, a nickname they give her, as it's the only word she can say. With no clues as to who she is or where she came from, they decide to take her in and let her live with them. However, Koro and Yuka soon realize that an unknown organization is hunting Lucy. To complicate matters further, their new friend's true lethal nature seems to be slowly resurfacing. The government, aware that this superior race could potentially reproduce and wipe out humanity as we know it, had undertaken the mission of hunting down all Diclonius and subjecting them to experiments. This is why Lucy was held captive at the beginning of the series. The core narrative of Elfen Lied essentially sets up a profound psychological conflict between Homo sapiens and the Diclonius. The Diclonius, deemed a superior yet extremely dangerous and deadly race, are caged and subjected to all manner of experimentation. They are branded as monsters, blood-crazed psychopaths, and murderers, forcing the viewer to consider whether Lucy's actions at the start of the story are, in fact, an act of self-preservation and a justified response to the millennia of abuse and mistreatment suffered by her race at the hands of humans. Paranoia Agent is truly one of the greatest anime ever made, and it's a shame that the entire story doesn't get more recognition. The series begins with Tsukiko Sagi, a designer facing immense pressure at work. Her supervisors desperately want her to create another sensation like the immensely popular mascot, Moromi, which has captivated the entire nation. Under this intense negative pressure and on the verge of a nervous breakdown, she becomes the victim of a mysterious juvenile assailant. This attacker, known only as Lil Slugger, or Bat Boy, glides in on rollerblades and wields a golden baseball bat, attacking her without any apparent motive. Detectives Keiichi Akari and Mitsuhiro Manawa are assigned to the case, initially thinking it's a relatively normal assault. They are unaware that Lil Slugger's first attack and their subsequent attempts to uncover the truth behind his crimes will trigger a chain reaction where rumors, hysteria, and widespread paranoia begin to consume the reality surrounding the main characters. Paranoia Agent starts out as a mystery thriller focused on the identity of the elusive attacker. However, the majority of its episodes shift perspective, focusing on various characters and the tumultuous events in their lives. These individuals experience diverse personal conflicts, but share one common thread. They are all driven to a point of emotional crisis for different reasons, only to become victims of the Golden Bat. Different people fall prey to this mysterious entity, including children bullied by their peers, a woman with a severe multiple personality disorder, an unscrupulous journalist, various police officers, elderly women addicted to gossip, and many others. The story progresses, becoming increasingly surreal as the search for the identity of the person responsible for these attacks drives everyone further into madness. When They Cry unfolds during the summer of 1983 in a rural Japanese village. The story's first chapters are narrated from the perspective of Keiichi, a young man who has just moved from Tokyo to start a new life after committing a crime. In this small village, Maebara quickly makes friends with several of his classmates at the only school. Among them are Rina, who hides a bloody past, Rika, who possesses a special power, Mion, the twin and successor of a powerful family, and Satoko, an abuse victim, and the sister of Keiichi's predecessor. They all spend most of their time together participating in their club activities. Initially, everything seems normal and peaceful for Keiichi until the Watanagashi festival approaches, a day of thanks for the local deity, Oyashiro-sama. Leading up to the festival, a photographer who visits every year tells Keiichi that for the past 4 years, one person has disappeared and another has died on the day of the event. This sparks intense curiosity in him. However, when he tries to investigate further, his friends begin to act strangely, sinisterly, avoiding the topic. The day of the festival arrives, and the curse of Oyashiro-sama proves to be real. Keiichi finds himself gradually drawn into these events, which always end in bizarre ways. As the story progresses, we uncover the secrets hidden by each of the main girls and the dark truths concealed by the village itself. Who controls it, and what happens if someone attempts to leave? With each chapter, the characters begin to unveil their inner madness, betrayals, lies, and a myriad of other mysteries hidden within the town. This particular anime is packed with mysteries, even in the titles of its episodes. Furthermore, the question arcs are meticulously revisited in the subsequent answer arcs, but often from a different character's perspective. It is this shift in focus that allows the mystery to be solved and leads to various conclusions. Another point to note is that the story constantly travels between the past and the present. Because of this, it is an anime that can be difficult to understand, but that complexity is precisely what makes it both interesting and unsettling. Serial Experiments Lain is a pioneering avant-garde anime influenced by deep philosophical themes such as reality, identity, and social communication. The series focuses on Lain, a teenage girl living in suburban Japan who is only just being introduced to The Wired, a global communication network similar to the internet. Lain lives with her middle-class family, which consists of an unexpressive older sister named Mika, a cold mother, and a father obsessed with computers. The series explores concepts like God, the collective unconscious, networks, conspiracy theories, and many other tropes common to cyberpunk literature. The first jolt in Lain's solitary life occurs when she learns that students at her school have been receiving strange, posthumous emails from Chiza, a classmate who committed suicide. From that point on, Lain embarks on a path that leads her to delve deeper into the network and her own thoughts. Gradually, Lain's life begins to unfold almost entirely online, causing her only friend, Arisu, to worry and urge her to start hanging out with her and her friends again. Through Arisu, Lain learns about a mysterious psychochip, which later allows her to enter the network freely. This ability gradually transforms her into an omnipotent being within the network, essentially a godlike entity. As Lain uncovers more about the network, she notices strange men in black beginning to monitor her home, alongside a group of hackers within the Wired known as the Knights. Lain gradually becomes famous online, gaining great prestige that also increases her power. Consequently, she loses interest in living in the real world. Eventually, she realizes that she has stopped recognizing her true personality, and it is at this point that she truly begins to question everything. The Promised Neverland is set in a dystopian future in the year 2045. The story takes us to an orphanage called Grace Fieldhouse, where its young residents, including Emma, an 11-year-old girl, and 37 other children, spend their days waiting to be adopted. They all live and play happily under the watchful eye of Mom, who ensures the order and safety of the children. The children at this hospice live contentedly and receive the best care until they turn 12, which is when they must leave. Emma, Ray, and Norman are the oldest children in the orphanage and essentially serve as the older siblings to the others. In the house, all the children have a number marked on their necks, wear white uniforms, and undergo strange daily examinations that test each child's potential and performance. In their free time, the children are allowed to do whatever they like, except for approaching 2 specific places: the gate that connects to the outside world and the boundary of the surrounding forest. One day, Norman and Emma inadvertently wander into one of these forbidden zones, intending to return a forgotten stuffed bunny to Connie, a newly adopted girl. However, upon reaching the site, they discover the horrible truth behind the institution. Connie has been murdered by demons right before their eyes. They realize that Mom is actually a human cattle breeder, tasked with raising the children at Grace Fieldhouse so that monsters can eat them. These children are considered a luxury food item by the demons who inhabit the earth. The supposed paradise for these youngsters was, in reality, nothing more than a dream that has become a nightmare. Once Emma and Norman accept that they have been deceived all this time, they join forces with Ray to formulate an escape plan that will save the lives of all the orphans. Monster has to be, objectively, one of the best anime ever made. The story begins in 1986, focusing on a brilliant Japanese neurosurgeon named Kenzo Tenma working in Germany. He seems to have everything anyone could wish for in life. He is engaged to the daughter of the director of the prominent hospital where he works, and is destined to become as wealthy as his future father-in-law. His comfortable life seems preordained for success. Yet, as soon as we learn his future is bright, it evaporates because he chooses to do the right thing, save the life of a young boy with a gunshot wound to the head who requires immediate attention. By prioritizing the boy over the mayor, who was admitted to the hospital with a cerebral aneurysm, Tenma makes a crucial political blunder by operating on the child and letting the mayor die at the hands of less competent surgeons. His moment of rebellion against the hospital director's orders costs Tenma everything. He loses his secure future, his fiancée Eva, and, in a moment of emotional fragility and weakness, he opens his heart to the boy he saved, expressing his deepest, negativity-fueled wish out loud. He wishes the director were dead. His wish falls on the ears of the young patient, and the boy answers his prayer. One could say it's like a gift granted by the very child he saved, named Johann, who turns out to be nothing less than a serial killer. The death of the hospital director restores security for Tenma to reclaim the prominent role he had lost, putting him back on the path to success. 9 years after enjoying this success, Tenma discovers that his illusory thoughts earned him that position, and that he unknowingly made a pact with the devil. Saving the child, the correct decision as a doctor, turned out to be the biggest mistake of his life. Tenma decides to search for Johann, who is now in his 20s and seemingly sowing terror in many positions of power in the new post-Cold War Germany. He realizes he saved a serial killer, a monster with a plan. Tenma, along with the viewers, must uncover Johann's plan, and in that odyssey, he realizes there is a terrible conspiracy that forces him to question his own humanity. Junji Ito collection isn't a single, continuous narrative anime. Rather, it's a direct adaptation of the stories by the renowned horror manga artist Junji Ito. Across 12 episodes, the collection animates some of his most spine-chilling and unsettling manga works. This anime is a compilation of various horror tales. Notably, each episode features 2 to 3 situations that delve into themes ranging from occultism, terrifying traditions, curses, and monsters, to the sheer madness of the main characters. The collection powerfully showcases how twisted human nature can become when pushed to the limit. Every episode of this series brings together approximately 2 stories of varying lengths, adapting both well-known and less familiar tales from his bibliography. The graphic and grotesque horror on display will likely leave a lingering impression you won't soon forget. The adaptation is remarkably faithful to the original mangas, with virtually no changes or censorship. In doing so, it preserves the majority of Junji Ito's signature strengths and weaknesses as an artist. The plot of Umineko no Naku Koro ni takes place on an island that is deliberately kept off the maps because it is part of the extensive property belonging to the wealthy Ushiromiya family. It is, in my opinion, one of the best stories ever conceived. On October 4th and 5th, 1986, all family members gather for their annual family conference. The main topic is the division of the inheritance left by the family head, Kinzo, whose health is failing. Unexpectedly, a massive typhoon bears down on the island. Due to the storm, 18 people are trapped on the island, completely cut off as telephones and radios are rendered useless. This is where the mystery and terror truly begin, as the family members become embroiled in a series of serial murders. Amidst the chaos, a cryptic letter arrives, alluding to the presence of a 19th person. As brutal crimes unfold, we are forced to question how many will die, how many will survive, who the culprit is, and whether the killer is a member of the family, a complete outsider, or truly a witch. The grandfather, Kinzo, had apparently decided to offer his family as a sacrifice to the witch Beatrice. This is the starting point of the game. Battler, Kinzo's grandson, refuses to believe that the murderer is a witch and attempts to prove that it is not magic causing the deaths. This is where the true narrative begins to unfold. Every few chapters, the game resets and the sequence of deaths changes. The story of Umineko is divided into multiple question arcs and answer arcs. Each arc develops with differing points of view, and the mystery left at the end of every chapter compels you to watch the next episode, desperate to understand what is truly happening in this bewildering story.